Namaskar. Hello and welcome to P Guru's channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. This is episode 387 of Daily Global Insights, and I'm joined by my co-host Sridhar Chityalaji. Sridharji, Namaskar and welcome to P Guru's channel.
Namaskar. Good morning, Sriji. Hope all is well. And there's a little bit of interruptions in the video feed. So I don't know whether I'm the only person feeling it, and Sachin can let us know. But now, hopefully, it'll get cleared up.
I think it's fine, sir. So far, I haven't seen any challenges. So let's
Okay.
start with what is happening in the market because markets are a good foreteller of things to come. In United States markets, which lead the world, I mean, set the tone for the world. Looks like the markets are looking up a little bit.
The markets are looking up a little bit on the back of positive retail earnings expected, retail sales earnings, retail sales growth, and earnings expected from retailers like Best Buy, etc. Sustaining the momentum that they have shown. So it's a short week, only Tuesday and Wednesday. It's a Thanksgiving week, so we may see a small blip in the markets as we move ahead. But that all could be dampened by the hawkish rate hikes that the Fed governors are advocating. And we will cover that over the weekend on the markets update. And I think that seems to be the dampener. Other than that, I think we may see positive blip this week, but let's see what happens.
Thank you very much, sir. And now let's take a look at what is happening in and around India. Sridharji, there was a visit by a naval department of United States that has not gone reported at all in India, sir.
Well, I think that there has been a series of visits, and this is a very important visit by the vice naval chief from the U.S. Army. I think he was at Cochin. He spent 2 days talking to obviously the the people in the I think it's the Western Command in that region, and it seems to a Southern Command in Kochi, and it just is a continuous dialogue. Remember, this is on the back of the Malabar exercises we just concluded, headed by the special directive forces of Japan. So I think it just implies that there is a continuous dialogue despite the political rhetoric that is going on at the military level.
Absolutely, sir. And Australian Parliament has just ratified a trade agreement that was signed in April this year, and it hopes to increase India, Australia trade from 25 billion to 50 billion in a matter of 5 years. If they can pull this thing off, that is truly 20% year-over-year growth, sir.
Well, I think there is a plenty of demand and opportunity. I think it's mostly the issues around restrictive trade practices and some limitations imposed on barriers that has mitigated. I think the India's model is now being replicated by smaller nations, which is not to be reliant on big powers, but more smaller bilateral, what you call low-hanging fruits, which have been left unattended. Remember, India and Australia have a very strong partnership on many fronts, including by virtue of Quad. So they have sustained the momentum, and this augurs well. This is not just just on purely bilateral goods and services. It also Australia plans to invest into India and allow India to invest into Australia. So from 25 billion to about 50 billion, as you rightly said, is a pretty laudable number, and I think they'll achieve it.
And viewers, a request to like this particular video. We have some breaking news that has not been covered by MSM. In fact, it might not even ever get covered by MSM. A lot of research has gone into making some of these news items. So please request you to like this video. Let's take a look at what is happening with India's purchase of crude from Russia. There are new sanctions taking effect soon, and India is picking up a lot of last-minute load from there, sir.
They're picking up December 5 is the upload time, and then the January 19th is the download, which is leaving the shores. As far as upload is the one which is arriving on the shores. So I think India is ramping up. I think they've got at least 2 containers coming from Russia. I think most of the other nations, just don't get me wrong. I mean, This is the reason why the external affairs minister has been very strong, which is, I'm not the only guy. You guys are picking up as well. So the others are picking up the crude, which is much, much needed in the world. It's after January 19, what happens? The price cap comes in. This is what the G20 agreed to. And I think India will comply with the price cap and move forward. I have not seen many red flags from many nations. So crude has not been halted from Russia, but there will be price caps in terms of at what prices, so that there's no bartering goes going on between many countries. So this is one of the reasons why, because the supply has been now to some extent been offset. You have seen the West Texas crude come to $80 or just below 80, and then the Brent dipping below $90. We even reported $88. This is the futures. So augurs well, also on the back of some of the issues that the China faces. So India has done very well in terms of making sure its supplies are adequate, Sriji.
Sridharji, when price caps take effect on the ground, does that mean more pain at the pump for the Indian consumer, sir?
Look, I don't know the pricing theory that is applied in a political context within each of the nations, because there is a fair amount of governmental intervention in some nations, and there is open supply and open pricing in other nations. But clearly, if in the case of India, if India intervenes, then probably you will see some price cushioning happening. As far as United States is concerned, there's no price cushioning, so we're going to see
The full brunt.
yes, we're going to see the full frontal, as we say in United States.
And Indian rupee is expected to trade in a narrow band between 82 to 82 rupees and 40 paisa because of the hawkish Fed. So Fed is still committed to raising rates. So you're saying that because of that, a lot of things are going to happen. I'm happy if it stays at 82, sir. It has even gone to 83.
Well, I think that the what you are seeing, I think we covered this by showing the DXY,
Yes, yes.
the charts, right? We also showed compared to the inflation. So the story is, if the Fed, there is a rate hike that is expected. They're trying to do it in the first week of December. If they do a rate hike, you are going to see movement of US dollar. And when that happens, naturally, we covered this topic, you will see the cross currency impact, and which is the reason why it has remained at 82.40, but it is possible that the price could go up.
And in United States news, the immigration issues is not going away. One of the migrants who had taken advantage of a new Biden policy that's converting illegal immigrants into legal parolees, giving them a work permit and a foothold in America, according to the Center for Immigration Studies. Sridharji, let's qualify this a little bit. Thus far, any illegal for whom, who entered in the United States, where they were not checked for COVID, they were not checked for any papers, and then they were distributed across the country, those people still have to get their date in front of a judge before their status can be determined. But looks like there is a new way people are being allowed where they don't have to go in front of the judge.
Yeah, this is called the Biden's tweak to the illegal immigrant policy. Biden's tweak, which is to say it's an open invitation, come in, claim that you have been harassed and you got issues, and so therefore then we'll let you in. Remember the Central American nations, El Salvador, Nicaragua, and El Salvador, Nicaragua, and Uruguay, and some of these nations have had the Guatemala. Some of the nations have had open access. They were not, the CBP were told not to give them, welcome home kind of a treatment. And that's why we had, significant number of people coming in. But now what they're saying is they're tweaking it a little bit, which is to say, if you come in, then remember there were illegals who were transported. Here, they will be parolees. That is the new difference. And in the process, you can hunker down in the United States, along with 11, 12, 13. Now, I think 11 plus 2. 13.5 million illegals we have, at least officially reported number. We don't know the unofficial number, but this has been the open policy of the progressives. And Biden, this is a lady who has walked in from one of the nations making the statement.
Well, the GOP now demands prosecution data from Biden administration on the illegal immigrants. They want to know how many people were, found to be doing bad stuff in United States. This is only going to go up. I can see it on the roads here, right here in California, Sridharji. I mean, Silicon Valley is a very happening place, but now there's a lot more along the streets, more aggressive panhandling. So, taking in immigrants is one thing. Maybe they should all get some work from Mr. George Soros, who's the one who wants open borders.
Well, I think that he should. In fact, he should set up work shelters. It would serve well that he can also create some vocational training as well as this, probably educate them in other kinds of things, which will make them fairly productive and efficient rather than just giving money to move them around. But anyway, setting be that as the case may be, uh, the issue here, Sriji, is that for 2 years, the GOP has been asking, the Republicans have been asking through the various committees, Mayorkas to come and report what exactly is happening. Remember, Vice President Kamala Harris was the what you call the border czar. She has visited a couple of times and she didn't see any issues. So they have not been sharing any data around what has happened. And so this is now coming out. This should come out. It's not going to solve the problem. It just is going to demonstrate the magnitude of the problem we as citizens face if you happen to be United States citizen.
Are the elections and counting over in United States elections? Not yet. Senate with a Georgia runoff where the winner has to go get over 50% to be declared the senator, and that is still up for re-election, and that would determine, well, sort of who controls the Senate. Already you can say that the Democrats control the Senate because they have 50 plus Kamala Harris's vote. So anytime there is a tie, she can always vote the casting vote in favor of Democrats. Now, the House is in Republican hands. Clearly, now they are at 219 to 212, with I think four more undecided, and I think three of those races are expected to go the Republican way. So that will be a 212 to 213. That is what I mean. Sorry, 222 to 213 is what we expect. See, there's a small wrinkle in this. Kevin McCarthy is the presumptive Speaker of the House, assuming that he can get 218 votes. He needs to still get 218 votes. And within his own party, 31 voted against him when the leadership vote came. Do you think he'll be able to, excuse me, sir, do you think he'll be able to sway the required number of votes so that he gets elected as Speaker?
Well, I think he's going to get elected as a speaker. There's no issue on that was attempted, and he got kind of reasonable implicit support on the speakership. He will get it. It's just similar to McConnell in the Senate side. I think what you probably are referring to is, will he have adequate votes to get a legislation passed or to get some of the key items resolved for inquiries or discussions, or to enact a legislative agenda? Does he have a majority? I think we must also say that if it is a what you call fait accompli, you may see some of the Democrats switch across and vote in favor of the Republicans, vote with the Republicans, just as Republicans have voted with the Democrats on very sensitive issues. So you may see that happening. It's not a slam dunk, but the majority, very important point, the majority in the House means all the major, what we call as the money bills, as well as issues around national security, trade, etc., would be with the Republicans in the House. As far as the judicial is concerned, in the Senate, will be with the Democrats.
And the GOP-led House sets priorities for the 2026 to 2026 agenda. Sridharji, the House gets elected every 2 years. How are they doing it for more than that, sir?
I think it's a 4 year. They have an agenda from 2022 to 2026. And so therefore, they have basically a window for them. So those seats which, no, this is in the Senate. As far as the House is concerned, I think they have they believe that they have a 4-year window to kind of make some of the legislative actions and control the direction of the party. This is control the direction of the nation. This is the view of the Republicans. And so hopefully, they've defined three priorities. Obviously, immigration is one of the issues. They have already highlighted China to be one of the big issues in terms of the China trade policy. They're also going to go after the Hunter Biden issue. So all these three things are going to be the backbone with which they're going to move forward. I think the fourth one, which they're looking at, is this seems to be bipartisan with Sheehan from New Hampshire. This is around what happened as to how United States allowed Nord Stream to happen when they knew Nord Stream 2 would have bypassed Ukraine. So these four items could set the tone for some pretty interesting agenda as the new House takes over in January 2023.
A US Navy warship actually sailed the Taiwan Straits on November 5th, but this information was not disclosed. Why was it not disclosed, Sridharji?
Well, it's obvious, which is namely to say that this is a chess game. So while one day before November 5th, this was the silently made a trip around the Taiwan Strait, and then of course Mr. Biden and Mr. Xi Jinping met. But we need to recognize that there has been multiple crossings by the Chinese planes on the what you call as the demilitarized zone in the Taiwan Strait. So they're saying you are doing it, so I'll also do. So therefore, it's just basically to demonstrate, we are even in terms of the power play that is going on. That is also the same as what Kamala Harris did by landing not only in Taiwan but also in Philippines.
Yeah, that was the APEC meeting, and the interesting thing that happened there is in one of the sessions where both the Thai Prime Minister and Emperor Xi were present. That at the conclusion of that meeting, the Thai Prime Minister sticks out his hand to shake, and she kind of ignores it and goes away. We don't know if this is going to be one more crisis. We have to wait and see what happens. And I just find it funny that China is, they need to be a little bit more careful. I thought everything is very carefully choreographed, sir.
Emperor Xi is emperor, sir. So therefore, there's no choreography.
He's going to do this.
Yeah, he acts according. Well, you saw him give a tirade to Trudeau, and he doesn't wince. He believes that he has got the power. He's the new emperor. He has got the unilateral power, and he carries the power with him. And remember, we have covered this. ASEAN is the largest trading partner of China. ASEAN's number one trading partner is China. ASEAN's number 4 trading partner is United States. So from that in itself, where the power lies.
Now, US and Chinese defense chiefs meet in Cambodia amid rising Taiwan tensions. Sridharji, there is always this two-track diplomacy. On the one side, the heads are butting heads. I'm sorry to say, I use that as a pun. And the people on the ground are still talking.
Well, I think this is one of the outcomes that they need to talk. They continue to talk rather than hide from each other and throw stones at each other. So they're talking. It's now coming to light. The discussion specifically focused on two things. One is consistent violations of sovereignty by Chinese. That's number one. And number two is the interceptions or attempted interceptions of foreign planes. Very specifically, the defense secretary seems to have spoken about the Chinese aircraft trying to intercept Australian planes. We covered this in some DGIs ago, but they brought this topic up to say, how dare you try to intercept a foreign plane in its own sovereign territory? And so this seems to have been brought up, not that it's going to make any material difference. The fact that it has been discussed, and it is now, I'm sure the global media is covering it or not covering it, but at least I've seen at least one or two media cover it in around the world, that this specific issue has been put on the table.
And in global news, from ASEAN to G20 to APEC, are 12 days of hectic parlays with India and Indonesia taking the lead as peacemakers in a world of dissent. Leadership meetings attempt to dial down tensions. Myanmar and North Korean issues are still looming large. Sridharji, first off, I think the suggestions of India got actually written down in the G20. What do you call that thing? Final charter or agreement
Communicate,
that communicate.
communicate.
Yeah. So they have actually put in a lot of the stuff that India has suggested. But as we see through this episode, you will see that things are still a little far in terms of what is going to happen between Russia and Ukraine, which I think is going to stay, sort of determine how things play out in 2023, sir.
Well, I think the Russia remains an elusive issue. Whether the media is reading it right, or whether the just opinion piece writers are writing it, the general indication is, Russia is getting isolated and China is not raising a significant amount of dissent. And effectively, that means that China is trying to distance itself from any fallout and look out for itself seems to be the agenda, and that is what the media is communicating. But Vladimir Putin doesn't seem to be indicative of that type of sentiment being expressed. So Russia will remain a kind of a stalemate while the world moves on. I don't think Myanmar is going to be solved. They've just left it, and both China and Russia are courting Myanmar. So in the process, ASEAN is non-confrontationalist, and so they will try to see whether they can work a solution without imposing any significant kind of penalties. So Myanmar will remain unresolved. Same with North Korea. I don't believe China can do anything to stop North Korea. Now they have they have two new partners, Russia and Iran, as partners of North Korea. So they are now firing long-range missiles, which can actually come on to the shores of United States.
And in the Russia-Ukraine dialogue, that seems still at a stalemate. Nothing has started yet. And Ukraine now has asked its citizens to move away from Kherson because of power outages. We're also hearing that the nuclear plant in Zaporizhzhia has been completely shut down. And God forbid, are there any nuclear leaks from there, sir?
No, there are no nuclear leaks. And the only thing is what the Russians have done, they've taken most, if not majority, of the energy infrastructure. So this is going to be a period of significant kind of distress, and the Ukrainian people are going to face it, and they have to sustain and be supportive, in terms of the pain. What the long-term consequences of the polarization between the communities, time will tell.
So we now have this river, Dnipro River, and the Russian troops have managed to get back to the other side, but that is still in Ukraine. Now, I'm talking about the Kherson region, and the Ukrainians are being told not to go to Kherson region. And, the world is talking about general winter, supposed to be the thing where Russia always starts its campaigns during winter, and that it wins those winter campaigns. History tells us this. Do you see a renewed attempt by Russians to retake Kherson, sir?
Look, I think there is two types of activity going on. One is this brinkmanship, and the second, there seems to be some backdoor dialogue that is going on. On one side, Ukraine says, I didn't insist that Vladimir Putin should step down. Vladimir Putin says, I didn't insist that Zelensky should step down. So let's continue to dialogue. I think this, those French President Emmanuel Macron is leading this kind of discussions along with EU. As I mentioned before, my assessment is that this will eventually become a civil war, and Russia will basically allow its surrogates in the region now to continue this and bleed Ukraine, unless Ukraine is able to do something dramatic, or unless both of them come to some kind of an agreement, which right now looks very distant.
And Poland has placed German Patriot missiles along its border with Ukraine. Remember that there were two missiles that landed inside Poland, and there was some question about whose missiles were they. So we'll leave it at that point. Now let's take a look at what is happening at Qatar. Qatar Energy has signed a 27-year deal to supply China's Sinopec with liquefied natural gas in one of the longest such LNG agreements. Siddharji, I thought it was 20. Now they made it 27.
Well, I think 2 plus 7, 9 is a lucky number for Chinese. So 9 is a lucky number. So therefore, I think that's the only thing I can kind of infer. Why 20? Why 25? Why not 27-year deal? Remember, Qatar has done a deal. Well, how does this LNG flow? Very interesting. It has to flow through South China Sea. Okay, so therefore we'll do a separate one more topic on how South China Sea is going to be managed, and why China is trying to kind of gobble up much of it. But having said that aside, the Qatar is still doing deals also, is to see what kind of deal China is doing. So the Europeans are going to come to the table and tell the Qataris, we would like to do a similar deal with you, and let's see what happens. I hope some of the unwarranted comments that came out from some of the global community members on the Qatari FIFA football, hope it doesn't bite them, given that they have to go back for LNG.
Well, even India has downplayed the fact that one of its wanted preachers, Zakir Naik, is now going to be preaching, or he's addressing the players in FIFA World Cup 2022. We've had a separate session on that one, a separate monologue on that one. Do watch it; it's on Channel 2, and we've put out a lot of things that have been happening in the Soccer World Cup. Not all bad, there are a few good things also. So you please be sure to watch that. Lastly, Iran and Turkey have stepped up attacks in the Kurdish regions across Syria and Iraq. Is Turkey planning an invasion? Sridharji, here is the map that shows where things are. Please walk us through it.
Well, here you have the map. I mean, there's a very famous phrase which I won't use in the interest of being polite, but this is Syria. Take a look at this. It's a grand mess. You have the Syrian-controlled Syria and non-Syrian controlled Syria. So if you take the Raqqa, the Qamishli, as well as the Tel Abyad region, it is actually controlled by the Kurdish forces and the Turkish army and the Syrian opposition on one side. Then you have within what you call the western borders, right next to Aleppo, which was the hot seat of the ISIS activity, you have the jihadi opposition controlling it. Within that, there's a small segment which is also controlled by Syrian opposition. Then within the Syria, to the southern side, you have the Islamic State controlling it. So the question that is propping up is Russia is acting as some kind of buffer. You can see the shaded area. The question that is being asked is whether Turkey will exercise restraint, or Turkey and Iran, who both consider the Peshmerga or the Kurdish as a common enemy, whether they will try and use the international vacuum to occupy this area. And both of them have been blaming. The Iranian revolution, they blame on the Kurdish. The Turkish terrorist attack in Ankara, the Turkey people blame that on the Kurdish people. So during the Trump phase, and even during the phase of the Obama time, there was a lot of support coming in favor of the Kurdish forces. But once the new administration has kind of stepped in, you have seen that there has not been much support given, especially to the Kurdish forces. They have been trying to defend by themselves. So this is the situation which is becoming the next hot point. So we said that there are 3 areas of vulnerability. This is the third area of vulnerability. Russia and Europe is one. Then, of course, Taiwan and South China Sea is another. And then this hot area of the Middle East, which is the Syria, Turkey, Iran, and Iraq, are the flashpoints. We haven't covered, there is trouble brewing even in Houthi. by the Houthis in Yemen. We'll cover that in the next episode of the Daily Global Insights.
And that's it for today. Please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Sridharji, thank you very much, sir. We'll be back again on Thursday. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Thank you. Have a wonderful day or have a wonderful evening. And happy Thanksgiving for all my American kind of colleagues and friends. And have a wonderful time with your family and happy holidays.
Happy Thanksgiving.